a few minutes late tonight, so I'm the vice chair. I'll get things rolling here until he can attend. First up, approval of minutes from October 27, 2022. Did everyone get a chance to look those over? And if so, do you have any comments or edits you'd like to make?
They look fine to me.
They did to me too. All right. It sounds like we're good to go. Somebody care to make a motion to accept the minutes as written?
So moved.
And
Second.
is there a second? Thank you.
Farrington,
Yes.
Kulik,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
and Smith.
Yes.
Haven't written my names yet.
Okay, so our first public hearing, Melissa received a communication from Peter Bemis asking if we could open it up but continue it to later in the hearing when he'll be able to attend, I guess, after 200 Turnpike Road towards the end of the agenda. So I'll open that up right now and find the notice. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, November 17, 2022, at 7:00 p.m. via virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for a project located at 65C School Street, map 75, lot 83, for the applicant and owner, Nick Bertinozzi. The project description is confirmation of wetland resource areas. Looking at the list of attendees here, I'm guessing we don't have anyone here from the public to speak on this, but if somebody is here for this matter, we're going to be picking it up later on in our agenda when the applicant, the applicant's representative will be here to discuss it with us. That brings us to 7:03, and we can't move on to the next agenda item until 7:10.
There's a
is,
COC if you want to hit that.
Yeah, let's get that taken care of.
So the first one, which is probably the only one we should really talk about right now, is the request for a certificate of compliance for 15 Woodland Road. I have the as-built in my comments if you want me to share them. Otherwise, I had sent them out to you. Essentially, the site was built in substantial compliance. There is 80% stabilization. I did note some minor erosion in the very back slope of the lot. As a reminder, this site has its wetland resource areas across the street on Woodland Road. So this isn't, no wetland resources are on site. Our two main conditions were to stay under the stormwater management thresholds, which seem to have happened based on the as-built limit of work. And an infiltration trench to carry the 1-inch storm was to be built along the driveway, which is in place as well. So my recommendation to the commission is to issue the certificate of compliance, but I do recommend putting kind of an unconventional condition for those back rails to be rectified by the end of June, which I have the agreement of the builder that it is already an agreement in place with the current owner that just purchased the property. So he is fine with that condition and possible enforcement if it isn't completed.
Sounds good to me. How does everybody else feel on this? Do you want to go any deeper into it, or it sounds from Melissa's description like matters are pretty well in hand with that final condition?
Well, I was about to go off with so moved.
Done. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Farrington,
Yes.
Kulik,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Perfect.
All right. We still have 5 minutes. Do we have time to? Oh wait, no.
We could do the annual report.
Yeah. No great surprises there.
Yeah, nope. It's the
We've
only
already
thing.
Yeah, we've already talked about the budget numbers, and well, Russ and I have seen the text in years past for the most part. Has everyone had a chance to just thumb through it real quickly? This gets
Yeah.
published in the town's annual report that gets distributed at annual town meeting, and just lets the town know what we've been up to for the past 12 months.
Yeah, and the only thing that might change is if we get any additional applications on Monday, I'll plop them in before it goes, the final draft to the town administrator's office.
Yeah, so if anyone has any changes or edits they'd like to make, now's the time. Otherwise, we can put it to bed. All right, would somebody like to make a motion to approve as written with the only condition that if we do receive a new application prior to the cutoff deadline, Melissa will incorporate it.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Farrington,
Yes.
Zulik,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. So I have 3 minutes. Let's see. Anything new?
Is the meeting
shocking, or exciting
scheduled?
Oh, that, where I was going to ask the Breakneck Hill, anything new or shocking?
At Breakneck Hill, we are working on the site access agreement with Ms. Fallon.
Okay.
Myself, town council, and Taylor from TRC had a Zoom call with her and her engineer today to work out some of the last final kinks with the right of access agreement. And it sounds like that will be signed pending some final language changes.
Okay.
So I received another scope of service for this last remobilization from TRC today. So I'll be sending that off to Mark Purple in the morning for his review and final sign off. So hopefully our goal is mid-December to be able to remobilize and do those final 3 test pits. And then based on those test pits, we will do the final asbestos containing materials abatement plan and start putting together an actual cleanup proposal and associated costs. So that's where we are. We're making progress, and hopefully by our next meeting, I will be able to tell you when those last test pits will be done.
All right.
What, do you know off the top of your head what the cost was for doing that soil testing that day?
I don't know this, I can't think off the top of my head the specifics of just the soil testing, but the total cost from the NOI preparation to any possible labs that we could have done, the estimated total not to exceed was 55, I think. And as of Taylor let me know today that we seem to be coming in all said and done 11 grand under budget for that initial assessment, but this remobilization might be about 20. So we can take half of that from the excess from the first that we saved because we didn't need to do as many lab testings as we planned or as we budgeted for, which is a plus. So we did have some surplus that can carry over for this next phase.
Right. Let's see here. All right, we got about 15 seconds, and then we can move on to our next public hearing. All right. 1 Witherby Lane. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, November 17th, 2022 at 7:10 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located at 1 Witherby Lane, map 79, lot 45, for the applicant and owner, Ellen Maria. The project description is a proposed landscape improvement project to replace existing deck and fence and regrade side lawn with new retaining wall. Good evening.
Good evening. Hello. This is Lucas Machado. I'm the owner of Curb Studio, and I'm representing the applicant tonight, Ellen, and her husband, Neil Maria. Just wanted to thank you guys for the time tonight, and also just give a big thank you to Melissa before I start, because she has been such an incredible help throughout this entire process, a great support. So I really appreciate that. And if you guys are okay with it, I can share my screen and kind of walk you through the application.
Please do.
So I know you are familiar with this project, with this property, because it was just a few short years ago that it was developed and obviously had to go through the commission for the same intermittent stream that we're here for tonight. So basically what this is, the Maria family has settled into this new construction home, and we engage with them to help them understand how they could how they can maximize the usage of their outdoor space for their growing family. And what we determine is that we'd like to do some work on the side yard here, which is currently quite an aggressive slope, to make it more usable in the form, and the solution for that is a retaining wall that we're proposing here, in order for us to have a flatter lawn area at the top. And then the other thing we came to determine is to replace the existing deck, which was really just kind of installed by the builder. And so we designed a new deck that's more suitable for the growing family. So those are the two main components of the project, and obviously the whole project and a portion of the whole deck and a portion of the wall falls within the 100-foot buffer zone of the intermittent stream over here. There is one other component that's notable, which is the replacement of the existing fence. So there's an existing fence. It's a solid wood fence that really was put up as somewhat of a temporary measure while the Marias kind of could think through how they really wanted to develop develop their property. So right now it's kind of a solid fence. What we're proposing to do is replace it with just a transparent aluminum fence for two reasons. One, so they can actually enjoy the views of the beautiful woodland area beyond that abuts the wetland. That's actually really nice. The conservation land portion of their property, which is one of the really nice elements of it. And also just allow for better wildlife traffic. They don't really see any reason to be so closed off. And so they kind of want to replace the fence as well. Hopefully you guys can see the proportion okay on the screen here. I would say one thing to note too about the fence and the deck. Currently let's see if I go here to the demolition plan. So you can see this is the current outline of the deck, which is a little bit of a ways, maybe 10-15 feet from the fence here. The new deck design, there's actually going to be a gate. The fence is going to kind of end here at the deck and then start up again at the other corner of the deck. So the deck sort of becomes the new threshold of the fence. And in that sense, it's kind of pulling back away from the wetland area, which is kind of nice. If that makes sense. So instead of the fence being pushed off from the deck, it's now kind of all part of it, which gives a little bit more space here that's kind of over to that woodland area. I think the developers of the previous developers did a really good job making a very distinct kind of threshold between the wetland resource protected zone and kind of the suburban lawn zone with this existing riprap that you see here. And really what this does is kind of help secure this aggressive slope that we have that comes down towards the wetland area. So we're not proposing to do any work beyond that riprap or that slope. That's why there's really only about 3 feet to walk past the existing fence here anyway, and that's why we have the limit of work about 3 feet off there. And I'm sorry, that's our that's the erosion control barrier is 3 feet off, and the limit of work is 1 foot off the fence. Most of the work will be done closer to the house because of the deck is the nature of it, but just because we will be replacing the fence, which we're going to be using the existing holes from the previous fence, we put the limit of work 1 foot off, except for down here where the retaining wall gets a little bit closer to that sloped area, where we're giving a little bit more space, although we do intend to do most of the work from this side in terms of the excavation and the footing and building of the actual wall. So we don't really anticipate much disturbance on this side, but we did bump it out a little bit. But other than that, everything is kept kind of from that natural barrier that's already there with the riprap and the slope. There is a mitigation component of this where we have decided to incorporate some native plantings into the proposed landscape beds. That's something that we're really excited to get to do as part of this project, just to kind of amp up the naturalization and all the benefits that come with planting native species in their native area. So I think that pretty much sums up the project, but please let me know if you have any questions. And yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
So I understand that the previous filing was recent enough that the review done by Lucas Environmental then of the resource areas gave Melissa plenty of comfort that it wasn't necessary to go back and reconfirm these delineations. So we don't have a review from Lucas. We have a review from Melissa, which reflects the fact that you worked with her in preparing the filing. It sounds like that you, Melissa, don't really have any concerns, that it's all been addressed as part of the filing.
Yep, and I did provide you guys with some pictures too, if you want to take a look at that steep slope. I kind of outlined where the deck would be because they nicely staked it out and sprayed it for me. So I just made them a little bit clearer on the photos. So you can tell, I think what he was talking about with that break of the fence will be very clear that you can't, kind of encroach back in that spot. So I think that's a great idea to have that stopped. And yeah, I had nothing else. All the yard debris that was there that me and Matt had noticed last year has still been removed and nothing further. So happy to report the all clear on that one.
Okay, and the lawn area is not growing as part of this. It's is that correct? There's no clearing taking place to enlarge the lawn or to install the deck. It's all within previously cleared lawn area.
That's correct.
Yeah. Any questions or comments from the commission? Okay. Let's see if there's anyone here tonight from the public who wishes to ask a question or offer a comment. Please use the raise hand function on Zoom and we'll promote you up so that you can do that. Not seeing anyone. No. All right. So no questions from the commission. I guess the next step is a motion to close the public hearing. Somebody be so kind.
So moved.
Thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Barrington,
Yes.
Zulik,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So what we typically do is at the end of our meeting this evening, we vote to issue conditions, which in this case will simply be our standard condition. We haven't really talked about any conditions on top of that. So our standard order of conditions, and I'm guessing, Melissa, you probably have that already prepared for us to vote on this evening. Fantastic. And I would therefore guess that you would be able to pick that up tomorrow or Monday in the conservation office.
Yeah, Lucas, I can actually email it to you tomorrow. Since we can do electronic signatures, you can get an original copy that way.
Okay, it sounds wonderful.
Thank you.
All right. No, thank you guys. And I don't know how often you hear this, but I mean, I've gone through this process in several towns, and Melissa has made this such a pleasant and smooth experience. I'm so grateful, and hopefully, and look forward to doing more work with you guys in the future. You have a great operation for this. So thank you for the time again.
Thank you. Have a good night.
And you put together a good application, so it always helps.
Appreciate that. All right. Bye.
Let's see. All right, just in time, 7:20. 353, 355 Turnpike Road. Yeah, there's no request for continuance on this one, right, Melissa?
Right, Vito's
Okay.
here.
Yeah, great. Let me open it back up. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, November 17th, 2022 at 7:20 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located at 353 and 355 Turnpike Road, map 25, lot 13, where the applicant and owner, James Watson. Project description is replacement of existing septic system. Good evening, Vito.
Good evening, Vito Colonna with Cornerstone Engineering. Okay, just share my screen. quickly. All right, so we're here for 353, 355 Turnpike Road, which is this property right in here. It's right near the intersection with Flag Road, next to the new, or will be new, Nan's Kitchen. So this is the site plan itself. Right now, there's a granite shop in there and a fence contractor, and then also a residential unit in that property. They have an existing septic system, which includes a cesspool right in the back here. There's also a second cesspool kind of in the nook of this building right in here. They're both in failure. This one in the back is actually in worse condition. The top collapsed a couple weeks ago. During certain times of heavy flow, it does leak out onto the surface of the gravel yard back here. So that one's really the urgent one to fix. This one is in failure, but it's not, in any urgent need. There are wetland resources to the back of the site. There is an intermittent stream that kind of runs right through here that leads down to a BVW that eventually goes on to a larger BVW down gradient from us. We weren't able to gain permission to enter the property. So this is shown based on observations from the boundary line. I do have, just so you can kind of see it, this is, luckily the Google truck went into the site. So this is that stream right there. It's this mode channel right there. So there's really no vegetation in that portion of it. It's just this mode kind of swale that runs through it, takes this culvert, and there's a wetland up here above it. It's at a higher gradient than our site. As you can see, it's down, this is our site down here, down a little lower. So it's really just this bypass. It connects these two wetlands together. It is up higher than us though in elevation. So the plan was essentially to replace the septic system in the back here. The perk rates were very slow. We had a 60-minute rate, which is the slowest basically you can use. So the system is very large. So we really didn't have much option to fit it anywhere else on the site. We couldn't fit it up to the side or the front. And we tried to tuck it as far as we could away from the wetlands. So it's really not much option. We also used a Presby system, which is an alternative system. It allows us to shrink the size by 40%. So this is really I guess in my opinion, the kind of the best we can do to get it as far as we can away and still provide a compliant septic system for them. All of the work is basically, this whole back area is essentially a gravel storage yard. So all the work would be in that gravel area. And we kind of delineated that kind of limit of kind of work and staging area with the erosion barriers. This area down here is paved, and then this is the gravel yard. So all the construction materials, stockpiles, equipment would stay up in this upper area. And then this would just be the access to get in and out. The wetlands themselves, there's really no surface connection. The runoff can't get, because there's a berm between us, and then this is actually a higher gradient. The only connection to them would be through the drainage system. So that's why we've put the silt sacks in all those. And then the outlet, we presume this outlet goes to daylighted here, but I could not find it. I think it's buried right now. So that probably should be uncovered at some point. I don't know if it would be as part of this project, if it would be allowed. But it should be uncovered. We could not find that outlet. But it does discharge somewhere because these are functioning, whether it just seeps through the ground. As far as that, I think it's just buried at the end. And then as part of this too, we do have a certificate of compliance for an old order from the 80s. And that would be addressed later on. But if there's anything from that old order, we could always roll it into this current project, such as, maintaining these. If there's a hood missing, I think on a couple of these, we could add that in potentially conditions for part of that prior certificate request. I think that's all I have for this. I do have a picture, I think, of the current cesspool. I'm just gonna find it. So this is the cesspool in the back right now. They do have a temporary cover over it, so it's not a danger.
For you?
That's what it looks like right now.
What?
Okay, I guess I could hand it back over and take questions to see if you address anything.
Thank you. First, Joe, I see you put together a review letter. Would you mind just going just real quickly through your comments?
Sure. So I went out and took a look at the delineation, the stream. As far as the delineation, I didn't have any significant issues with it. I thought actually two of the flags were a little bit high. I thought you could connect from flag 10 right to flag 13. And that would be accurate delineation. I did have a question on the stream location. It appears accurate on the plan as to where the stream is currently located. I know I'm looking at some of the previous plan shows the stream really more or less along the property line. And I note that there is a soil berm existing now at the back of the property. And as shown on the current plan, the stream channel is set back from the property line. So I don't know, it appears that at some point in the past that stream channel may have been realigned. I did also note that the culvert, the outlet from the stormwater is buried. I couldn't find it either. Let's see. Couple of just administrative items. The latitude and longitude were not provided on Form 3. The narrative stated that the checklist was provided, but it was not in the information that I had reviewed. The Form 3 indicates that the site is not within an outstanding resource water. The stream and wetlands would be considered outstanding resource water within the watershed of a public water supply. Let's see. The buffers are not indicated in colors as described in the under the bylaws. They should be for the site plan. Wasn't clear which erosion control barrier was being proposed. And I recommend that if there's going to be a soil stockpile, that the location be indicated on the plan, and also where the equipment that is currently stored in that area is going to be moved to while the work is being done. And that was about it.
Okay. Do you want to just run through a couple of them? Just
Please.
okay. I was looking at the old plan. I think it might have been a drafting error on this, just because this is actually a berm right here on this is the old original plan from '85. So obviously the swale wouldn't run down the crest of this berm right there. I think someone saw it and read the contours opposite.
Good point.
Like it was going uphill.
Yeah.
So I think the swale is actually meant to go right on the Toa slope up in here. So this berm actually, the topo on this plan matches pretty close to what we have now. I think it might have just been a drafting error on that. But I can't verify anything anyway. Back in the 80s. But okay, and then on a lot of some of the administrative items, just last minute, I sent some over to Melissa. I'm not sure if you even got them. I just updated some of the forms.
Yeah, I got those.
Okay, I know it was last minute.
Sorry.
I just kind of was going through this before the meeting, and I noticed that we didn't ever address those. So we sent over the updated forms. And then, yeah, we would use straw wattles and silt fence, except for this section where the trucks are going to come through. They could designate a spot, and they'd have to use straw bales for that, so they could move them as the trucks come in and out. And that way at night they could put the straw bales back, but during any rain events. And as far as the equipment that's out there now, they're going to have to, the owner's been talking with the tenants on what they want to do and how they can move that equipment around. Some of it may have to get taken off site. And other than that, all the dry, they have a lot of dry goods for, fence materials and all that. It'll all have to get moved temporarily to allow this work to go on, because all our soil stockpiles would be up in here, and the construction equipment would all be contained in this area. So all their existing machinery, fence materials would all have to get relocated down to this portion of the site, or potentially up in here. And it could be something where some of that might actually have to come off site, depending on what they have to do. They do have some large containers.
Yeah, there's quite a bit out there.
Yeah, they have all kinds of stuff out there. So some of it may have to come off site though. I know they've been talking for a while, and they were looking to do it at a time when the fence company wasn't so busy. So they might try to get that done kind of late, hopefully this late fall, as their business starts winding down, they could try to get this in. Let's see.
Thank you.
Okay.
I guess the one comment that I would make is that given the situation with the failed cesspool that's actually discharging to the surface at times, adjacent to a water course that goes to the reservoir, I think I would be much more inclined to address everything possible with conditions this evening to get this underway as quickly as possible, because just to stave off, a potential pretty serious impact to resource areas. I think in terms of the stockpiles, we could stockpile locations. I think we could condition that. Vito addressed the composition of the erosion control barrier and the disposition of the existing trailers and other equipment on the site. I feel like we can capture that in conditions that would give us plenty of confidence and allow this to move forward as quickly as we can. With that being said, any questions, comments, or concerns from the commission? Okay, not hearing none. If there's anybody here this evening from the public who has a question they'd like to ask or a comment they'd like to offer, please use the raise hand function on Zoom and we'll promote you up so that you can do that. I'm not seeing anybody. Okay, so in terms of conditions, Melissa, you probably kept better track than I, but stockpile locations, I think if we could just give a setback from the rear property line, perhaps, as a sort of a proxy for the 20-foot no touch. If everything was kept back no closer than 10 feet from the rear property line, we'd be out of the no touch. I think that give you plenty of room to work and handle stockpiled materials.
Yep, definitely.
And I don't know that we need to condition the removal of equipment, just only that the maybe the same restriction on equipment as it's shuffled around, that it not be stored any closer than 10 feet or so to the rear property line. Does that make sense to everybody? I think, Melissa, was there anything else? Did I miss something?
Do you want anything about the stormwater catch basins and outlets?
Oh, yes. Thank you. I knew there was something. So that the outlet will be located and, if necessary, the pipe cleaned.
Mhm.
In consultation with our agent, so we don't get down with our jet truck and blast a bunch of sediment down into the down into the swale.
Okay, and then we also should clean the catch basins and put hoods on if needed, just to add that.
Yep.
Thanks for signing up for that.
Yeah.
Probably some armor around the the
Outlet.
outlet, even up the bank, just to keep it obvious too.
Yeah, yeah, we could, maybe once it's located, we could have a sketch or a plan of what needs to be done. Something like that.
Yep. Once you locate it, just give me a call and
Okay.
we'll go from there.
Yep.
Okay. Great. I think that captures everything.
I agree.
Okay.
And I'll just make a finding about, I don't know if you guys want to do the COC tonight or kind of do what we've been doing when we find these historical ones that need a little bit of a fix, of maybe waiting until the outlet is cleared and then coming back to it at that point to close out that permit.
Yeah, in an ideal world, we'd either get it all wrapped up first or go through methodically and wrap things into this current filing, but this is a sort of a dire situation, so I think that's a good plan. We can come back to it after the outlet has been taken care of and those structures have been looked at for hoods and so forth and cleaned.
Okay.
Does that sound like a plan to everybody? Okay,
Yeah, that sounds good.
great. So with that being said, the next step is a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Farrington,
Yes.
Zulik,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes,
Smith.
Yes. Vito, well, first, Melissa, do you have draft conditions put together? Okay, so, and we can wrap in our newly added ones.
Yep.
And we'll get that voted on at the end of tonight's meeting, so that you can have an order of conditions in hand tomorrow.
Okay, that's great. That's perfect. We already sent it out to bid a while back, so I think he's ready to go.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that was really quite a picture of the.
Yeah, yeah, all of a sudden it got worse, so.
Yeah. Well, great.
All right, thanks a lot. I don't have to stick around for the certificate then later, right? No, all right, great.
Not free.
Have a good night.
All right, great, thank you. Good night.
Yeah. So up next, 8 Brigham Street. Okay. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, November 17, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located at 8 Brigham Street, map 50, lot 54, for the applicant and owner, Whitney Street Home Builders, LLC. The project description is construction of a single-family house, septic system, and associated site work. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm James Tatro from Azimuth Land Design, here representing Whitney Street Home Builders. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Good. And we're here for what will be the last lot of this group of lots. And this is it's street number 8, Brigham Street, lot number 7 of the group. And we just did an A&R plan to reconfigure all the remaining land to bring it into this lot. And I can tell you it is going to be the last lot because this lot, by containing all the remaining land of this property between Brigham Street and Route 30, then has enough riverfront area so that our proposed alteration is under the 10% mark. You would not be able to break off any other property from this. The property, again, is on the north side of Brigham Street, also has frontage on Route 30. There is running through it a unnamed perennial stream, and there are associated inner and outer riparian zones with that, and there are wetlands which were previously identified with an order of resource area delineation and confirmed by the orders of conditions for lots numbers. I'll give them the street numbers for 10 and 12 Brigham Street, which were lots 5 and 6. What we're proposing, and I just want to just note quickly too, we also have a DEP file number, 290-1100. And that file number issuance included a comment, which was, I'll just address briefly, was also one of the comments from the peer reviewer, was asking whether the lots had been, is this correctly only a just under 10% alteration? Did we divide the lots such that, we had so many percent on another lot, so many percent on another lot to get this one under 10%? And the answer is definitively no. We, in fact, previously, the orders of conditions, I should say the notices of intent for the previous 2 lots did not have any riverfront area alteration proposed by very conscious choice. We wanted to stay out of the riverfront area on those lots and not involve that, because we could. We didn't need to try to have a reasonable yard to expand in that direction on those lots. And it's a hurdle to jump through, and why jump through a hurdle if you don't have to and if you get minimal benefit for it? The answer to that question, which was raised by both DEP and the peer reviewer, is that no, there was no riverfront area alteration proposed on the other lots, lots 5 and 6, again, which were numbers 10 and 12 on the street. So what's proposed is a single family home here with a septic system off a little bit to the east of it. It would get a water line connection from Brigham Street. It would have a driveway going through an easement on the adjacent lot. And that is because this lot's frontage is way off on the left end of the sheet. And it would involve driving through no disturb zones and riverfront area, where Melissa had just had a box highlighted, to get to this house. And so the driveway for this house goes through an access and utility easement through lot 5. We filed the A&R already with where she's showing. We filed the A&R plan already with Corinna, who had a couple minor comments back for the surveyor to address, and he's doing that right now. It hasn't been absolutely finalized, but again, just to go back, we're proposing just a single family home with a septic system. We're altering under 10%, and the applicant's sister actually has MLS listing access and gave us the listing from properties for sale in Southborough at the time we were preparing the A&R, and there were no single family lots for sale. Now there were obviously existing houses for sale, and there had been lots in the past, but there were no properties for sale. So I just want to emphasize that the comparison of, is there a economically practicable comparable lot with fewer impacts? There were no lots to which to make that comparison. That's where, surprising, but that's where things stood for that, because that's obviously one of the usual things you have to do for a riverfront area alteration, and there simply are not any other lots to compare. The applicant owns this property already. He had done with another engineer and with me soil testing at multiple locations to try and find a suitable spot. Some of the soil is fine. Some of it's sort of average till. Some of it was very tight. So in addition to wetland areas on site, buffer zones and riverfront areas, there was some limitation in regard to where the septic system could go. So I should add just quickly, we filed an application for approval of the septic system plan with the Southborough Board of Health. That hasn't been completed yet. We haven't heard back any comments. That's been about a week or so. But we have it as part of this. We have an operations maintenance plan for both the construction phase and afterwards. roof runoff is to go to a structure, an infiltration structure in the backyard, which is going to be sitting mostly in fill, which will make the grades work. And we are proposing a line of boulders where the proposed work gets up against the 100-foot riverfront area behind the house. I guess I would just leave it at that. It's a little unusual shaped lot, but it's a fairly simple issue. We're not proposing any alteration within the 20-foot no disturb zone. We're not proposing any alteration of wetland area. We are proposing some riverfront area alteration, but under 10%. And again, to circle back, one more time, the question that both the DEP and the peer reviewer asked, we did not have any riverfront area alteration on the other lots. And so it isn't a matter of us segmenting our way out of exceeding 10%. So I'll try and answer any questions that you have. And the applicant is here also.
Thank you. First, Joe, would you care to go through your comments for us?
Sure. The wetlands have been approved through an ORAD. I don't know that the current expiration date of the ORAD was provided. Just wanted to be sure that that was still valid. I believe it is, but didn't see that it was provided in the filing. As far as the site inspection I did, a number of the wetland flags are getting pretty worn. Those should probably be refreshed so that they are apparent in the field before any work gets done out there. I did also note that there is significant invasive vegetation at the site, primarily honeysuckle and bittersweet, and also glossy buckthorn. I would recommend that the applicant provide a construction phase invasive species management plan, just so they're not spreading any invasives off-site. I think the comments regarding riverfront area have been addressed by the applicant. Would just add also that maybe the commission would want to consider including in the findings of fact that the riverfront alteration is now at 9.4%. So there'd be minimal additional riverfront alteration allowed on any of the lots, not just on this lot, any of the lots for the subdivision. The alternatives analysis, I think it did a pretty good job in looking at other locations, economic equivalent alternatives. I think some additional detail might be worthwhile regarding other layouts that were looked at for the particular lot and why those alternatives were not selected or had additional or greater impacts. As on the previous plans, recommend that the calculations be provided regarding the sizing of the system for the roof drain infiltration system. I know some of the previous plans didn't have that, and it was added to those plans afterwards. Also, recommend a note being added to the plan identifying the boulder barrier that is proposed to prevent lawn creep at the site. Administrative issue, just on WPA Form 3, the project is marked as buffer zone only, where it is actually also a riverfront area project. And I think that pretty much covers my comments.
Thank you very much. Okay, any comments from the commission? Comments or questions? Melissa, would you mind pulling the plan back up?
Give me a second, it disappeared. Hold on.
Oh, sure.
Tabs.
And Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say one more thing, which I just remembered, is that I should have apologized at the start of this, because this could have been heard at a previous hearing, but I messed up in that several days before but not enough days before your previous meeting, I realized that I hadn't sent out the abutter notifications, and so I had to ask to continue. And I apologize for having cluttered up your agenda and having to go wait another meeting. That was my fault. So
Oh, no, thank you for catching it and flagging it for us prior to the meeting starting. So we appreciate that. I have a couple of quick questions. First, the row of boulders for the riverfront area, it looks like just the scale of the plan that I was squinting at. Do those boulders continue down along the 20-foot no disturb also?
correct. They on the left side or west
Yeah.
side of the proposed house, they continue along the edge where the proposed work would get right up to the edge of the 20-foot no disturb. There's boulders there as well.
Okay, and the proposed lawn area is obviously going to be within that boulder area, but then on the rest of the site, it's going to be along where we see erosion control barrier, sort of at the limit of work. Is that also the edge of lawn proposed
Correct.
on the right-hand side of the lot? I see that row of hay bales, yep, right where the cursor is. So that will be the extent of lawn also.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And then right in that same area, the roof drain infiltration overflow from number 10, is that already in place?
No, it is
Was that
not.
previously? Okay, was that previously permitted under that notice?
It was actually a slightly different location. It's being moved because it actually was going to go out to roughly just behind where the septic system for this lot is proposed.
Okay.
Only it can't get there now because it would have to go right through this septic system. And so we're proposing to move that location for that adjacent lot's foundation drain and discharge from the infiltration.
Okay. So that will have to be done as an administrative change to the other order. That we can't, I don't, Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe we can do that through this notice of intent, make that change to another. Is that correct?
Yes, although if you do it as an administrative update, you can just vote it outside of the public hearing. If you get what I'm saying, like we could still make a motion to that effect. It just wouldn't be with this approval. Yes.
Right. Yeah, we don't have to, yeah, in other words, it doesn't require public notice and all of that.
Correct. Yep.
Does it need to appear on an agenda?
Probably should. I mean, if it's unexpected and it's something that is discussed as part, not in direct relation with this, but as something that came out of this conversation, I think you guys are more within your right to make that motion.
Okay. Then let's take that up when we're done here with this. Just wanted to make sure that administratively we get that captured correctly. To Joe's point about the sizing of the rooftop infiltration, I have a distant recollection of talking about that with some of the other lots. And the sizing methodology was not included with the application. Do I have that correct?
That's correct. He's correct. That was an omission.
So yeah, we would just be looking for the sizing data showing that it's sized for an inch of runoff on the impervious in the lot.
Will do.
Okay. And everyone on the commission is generally comfortable with the location of the boulders. I don't see a particularly strong need to continue them to the east as we look at it, just with the configuration of the yard. Is everyone comfortable with that?
Yeah, it looks like they continue down at the road entrance,
Yeah.
that driveway as well. So
Yeah,
it looks like it's right along everywhere where the no disturb is. So that looks
great.
fine to me.
Okay, before I forget, if there's anyone here from the public who wishes to speak on this matter, ask a question or make a comment, please use the raise hand function on Zoom so that we can promote you up. Okay, not seeing anyone. All right, it looks like we're gonna need the, to get the sizing data is, on the rooftop infiltration. I don't think, Joe, from your comments, there are any other plan changes or documents that we need to get. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, I think labeling the boulder barrier. that
Oh,
was
thank
proposed
you.
to prevent lawn creep. Also, I just realized in my comments, I forgot to mention that the commission may want to consider a wildlife habitat evaluation with the greater than 5,000 square feet of riverfront area alteration.
Oh, okay.
It is a pretty heavily invasive infested site.
Yeah,
Don't know that there's a lot of real high habitat value out there, but it's something that the commission can consider with greater than 5,000 square feet of alteration.
on this particular lot and the relative habitat value, I don't feel particularly strongly about that. Does anybody else have a feeling one way or the other? It doesn't sound like. The construction phase invasive management plan, that's something we typically condition. So I think where we sit right now is this will be continued to our next hearing, where I'm confident we can get this wrapped up.
I would ask then that the commission please continue.
Thank you. All right, do we have a motion to continue?
So moved. Oh, gotcha.
And a second?
Second.
Second. Oh, sorry. Look at both of you. I'm just going on mute now. Oh, yes.
Zulik,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. And so before we move along, we were just looking at a plan showing a reconfiguration of the rooftop infiltration overflow line for number 10 Brigham Street. Is there a motion to approve that as an administrative change to the order of conditions for 10 Brigham Street? So moved. Is there a second?
Does that need to be on the agenda, or you said
It doesn't, I think it doesn't have to. I think this is what's come out of this conversation. So it makes
Okay,
sense in this circumstance.
okay. If it wasn't seconded, then second. Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, Farrington,
Yes.
Zulik,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much. And we will see you in 3 weeks.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right, so next up is a continued notice of intent for 10 Metcalf Lane. Oh. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, November 17, 2022 at 7:40 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located at 10 Metcalf Lane, map 96, lot 31, for the applicant and owner, Christopher Cox. The project description is construction of a sports court. Good evening, welcome back.
Yes, good evening. This is Norman Hill from Land Planning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, very well.
Okay, great. I think Christopher Cox is also in attendance, but I can't confirm that. But anyway, at the last time we met, I presented the revised plan, which moved the proposed sports court away from the wetlands and away from the river. So, but we didn't provide an alternative analysis, but I did. A few days after that meeting, I submitted an alternative analysis, and I'd like to walk you through it briefly. So alternative number one would be the location of the sports court as shown on our plan. And Melissa, could you put that up on the screen so we can take a look at that?
Yep, just give me 1 second.
So there were many advantages of having this sports court as shown on our plan. One being that it's all currently lawn. It's pretty, second one being that it's pretty flat. It's a gentle slope. It would avoid the house, the well, the pool, the septic system, everything, all the beautiful things on site could stay as they are. And it would allow for a mitigation area where we would let a section of the lawn grow back. You can see all those little X's. That's the entire section of the lawn that would be allowed to grow back. There were 4 trees proposed, and the rest of it would grow back with natural vegetation. So we think that's the best alternative. So then I'd like to show you alternative number 2. So what I did, I slid the sports court to the right about 100 feet. So this alternative, I don't believe is a good idea because it would require a large area of trees to be cut down, and a small section of the court would actually be in what is now flagged as wetlands. Also, a portion of the court would be located in the 20-foot no work zone. So this would require us to design a wetland replication area. More trees would have to come down. So we don't think alternative number 2 is a good idea. So then I slid the sports court another 100 feet to the right, and I call this alternative number 3. And I don't think this is a good idea because it would be built on a steeper slope. So we'd have to have a retaining wall on the lower end and the higher end. Also, a portion of the court would be in the 20-foot no work zone, and a large area of trees would have to be cut down. And this alternative would also require a waiver from the 20-foot no work zone. So I hope you would agree with me that alternative number 1 is the most attractive option, most attractive alternative. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, questions, comments, or concerns from the commission? Okay, this is what we needed to, as I said last time, to sort of dot the final I and cross the final T. This is sort of as a matter of consistency and fairness. We have to ask for this from every applicant under the that comes up against the Rivers Protection Act. So we thank you for putting this together. I think this was the final piece of the puzzle we need to get an order issued here. Do we have anything else outstanding, Melissa, that you can think of?
Nope, that's
Okay.
it.
That was the last piece. So with that, step 1 is we close the public hearing, and then step 2 at the end of our meeting this evening, assuming that Melissa has put together some draft conditions, we'd vote on the conditions, and you could have an order in your hands tomorrow morning.
Thank you very much.
So, first, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you, everybody. Say well. Say well. Thank you.
Second.
All right, Barrington,
Yes.
Zulik,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. Okay, and as I say, the conditions, we put those off to the very end of the meeting so that everyone can get out of here and we can just take care of the administrative stuff.
Thank you.
And then you should get a copy of that tomorrow. So thank you very much for coming in this evening.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone stay well. Yeah.
Have a good night. $50. All right, Melissa, 200 Turnpike, are we looking at another continuance?
Nope, Peter is here to do it all.
Fantastic. In accordance with the provisions of the Southborough Stormwater and Erosion Control Bylaw, Southborough Zoning Code, Chapter 174, Section 13.5, Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will hold continued public hearings on Thursday, November 17, 2022 at 7:50 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting on the petition of CMJ Ventures LLC for construction of warehouse space, salt shed, and other site improvements at 200 Turnpike Road, map 28, lot 3C. Good evening, Peter.
Good evening. Thank you. Peter Bemis, Engineering Design Consultant. So we had postponed the last meeting because we were trying to align our commentary to address planning board comments with conservation. So we weren't ping-ponging between the both boards and Fuss and O'Neill at the same time. So we submitted not only addressing the Fuss and O'Neill comments that we've gotten from you folks back in earlier October, if you will, and then the later ones that we got in later October from them, so that Fuss and O'Neill has everything now. And we made some changes, some I would say substantial. So I said to Melissa, it'd be just best to introduce those to the commission. I'm going to continue tonight, obviously, because we're not far enough along with the Fuss and O'Neill comments. And rather than take each of those individually, we'll just trust me that we've addressed them. If they have any more issues, we'll address them at the next meeting with you. So if I could, Melissa, if you don't mind bringing up sheet 3 of 8, that was administratively, the cover sheet was just changed to address planning board comments. The second sheet is existing conditions, which are unchanged. So on 3 of 8, to start with, the commission, as they know, we had been involved in the 208 Turnpike Road to our left, and we kept that 206. We kept those wetland flags. It's just a few that show up on the edge of the sheet, but more importantly, the buffer zones, the 20, the 50, the 100, just so you could see the relationship and keep those of record for the purposes of this filing as well. And we still have the same building addition where we're intending to drive through and connect that to the existing structure, and then a self-standing salt shed. The brine tanks have been relocated to the rear of the building. Having been there the other day, I might relocate them one more time, just seeing that there may be a better spot for them. The other thing that's on this plan that you didn't see the last time was the Leeds family had reached out during our planning board meeting and indicated that they had had a well installed on their lot. So we got the records of that well from the the Board of Health, and we included that on the plan. And then there's a tie distance on our sheet to the soil absorption system, putting it at 415 feet away. It's a rotary drilled rock well, 400 feet with a low yield of 6 gallons a minute. So I don't feel as though there's going to be a great connection between our site and that well long term. The other changes to the site, we had a rain garden. We introduced that to you the last time. That rain garden is still there, but we've enhanced it a bit. And we've got a dedicated access along the west sideline. So when you come off the pavement, you would be able to drive down to the rain garden to maintain it. We relocated our infiltration areas back a bit. It's interesting, there's an A soil line and a B soil line here. Didn't see any difference in the soil results that were there, but because we try to use those mapping features and just take those to heart, we did move it so that the infiltration area was in the A area outside of the B area. And there's one dedicated for roof drainage, and there's one dedicated for the parking lot drainage. We still have 2 CDS units that will collect stormwater, treat it, and then put it into the infiltration system. And we pulled the pavement limits back because we went to, instead of having a 1-to-1 riprap slope in the previous plan, we have a 2-to-1 slope that we are planning to treat with wildflower mix, native wildflower mix. That'll be any slope greater than 5-to-1 will be treated in that manner. The other feature that we've added is that we do have a colony of trees that are going to go around the site. They're 40 feet on center. That was a feature that we didn't have on the previous plan. We do now. And I think what else? I think that's it. I mean, we still have the circulation plan. If you recall back when the previous plan was presented, that was by Santora. They had a dead end. So you came up the main driveway, and if you went across the south end of the site, you would terminate your travels. And you would have to then back up and then come back around the other side of the building. it just makes more sense to have full circulation on the site. We've retained that. We did locate a few more existing trees that was requested by the planning board. And we also changed our lighting formula a bit, which I know has really nothing to do with you folks, but we did make that change, and that's in the plan as well. The other sheets had details on them. There are details for the rain garden specifically to say what planting materials will go there. It's plants that we've used before, so I'm fairly confident that will thrive. There's a separate landscape plan, and there was a separate SWEP, because we are asking for not only the order of conditions from you, but we're also asking for an SMP. So that would be it. If there was any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, because I'd clearly like to keep this addressed in advance of the next meeting, because I'm hopeful that maybe we can get closer to closure at the next meeting. Thank you.
Sorry, forgot I muted. Thank you very much. Melissa, the review status with Fuss and O'Neill, they reviewed the previous iteration of the design. Are they
Correct.
taking a look at this?
It's in the works, so they have been provided with the updated plans, but we have not yet received the updated review.
Myself, I don't have any questions or comments. Anybody on the commission? Questions, comments, concerns that you'd like to raise? Okay, not hearing any. If there's anybody in the public who wishes to ask a question or make a comment, please use the raise hand function in Zoom and we'll promote you up. It looks like no, we're down to just a couple of attendees now. So I guess with that, we're just waiting on the final okay from Fuss and O'Neill, and I suspect we'll be good to go. I would imagine that we can wrap this up at our next hearing.
Yeah, Peter, do you still plan to respond to the latest comments from Joe? I think that some of those items might be still outstanding as well.
Yeah, I'll go through that. Probably the one most important, Joe, was the fact that anything beyond the lot limits, I wasn't looking for resource delineation on. It was really just those activities. I know that you had picked up a few finer points in what the Santora submission had. And I talked to Melissa about that and said, I am fine with not getting a delineation locked down for that, because it's not important. What's important is what we're proposing on this project. I'm not trying to do anything past that. So I'll go back and look through it again, though.
Through the chair. Those lines will affect the buffer zone on the project site, though. So that was why that was brought up.
Yeah, I don't think it was going to. My limit of work, though, doesn't change, or the manner in which I'm doing something doesn't change to affect that. But let me look at it. I'll better address it with you separately, and I apologize for not including that at this time. I'll do it. Thank you.
Okay. There's nothing else from the commission. I guess we're just looking at a continuance to our next scheduled meeting.
Yes, thank you.
Would somebody like to make a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Barrington,
Yes.
Zulik,
Yes.
Gregory. Sorry, I didn't hear you, Russ. I might have. Sorry. You leaned back and everything.
Oh boy.
All right. Smith.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So sorry. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Peter.
Yes, thank you.
And then we have a public hearing still open for 65 School Street, 65C School Street.
And I'm here for that. So the Bertonazzi family had reached out to me to get involved in this project, and they were fairly downstream. I guess they started this back in June. And when he described to me, where he was in the process, I was just a bit taken back and said, look, I'll help you get to where you need to be. So didn't realize part of it was to make sure he had a DEP file number today for a hearing this evening, but I did that today too. And then the comments had come in from Fuss and O'Neill, and I had read them, and I was fairly good with them. I just know how Chris and his group look at things. So I had said, look, just embrace those comments as well. And one of them was stream stats. So I ran that. I provided Melissa with a copy of stream stats. It's a very small watershed that's tripped to this location. So there would be no riverfront here for the project. A surveyor is involved in the project, not us. It's Control Point. So Control Point did locate the flags that were put in by Goddard Associates. And those flags had been confirmed by Lucas, and they asked for some of them to be moved. And the surveyor did move them in accordance with the commentary. What I'm not sure is if on the ground, the flag was actually physically put to that position. So I would, as part of this, if you were to support it, physically put that flag at that position so that we have it in the field at that recorded location. We anticipate having Control Point complete the project. They would be doing the stakeout for the buildings. They would be involved in sending any permanent monuments and doing certified plot plans, that sort of thing. And that engineering design consultants would do the septic system and the site plan for the project. Looking at this site, we're likely to have not only a notice of intent, but probably an S&P because of the activities and the size of the lot. I'm just anticipating that. I don't know for a fact, but we'll see. If we're close, we're still going to file. So I don't have a proposed house plan for the Bertonazzi's yet. So, I don't really know where the impacts are going to go, but I can assure you that the 20-foot no touch will be just that, no touch. And we know where the 100-foot buffer zone is now based upon the commentary from Lucas Associates. And I would know that we could cite a soil absorption system to comply with that requirement. So I would ask you if you could please support the proposal, because I'm trying to move this ahead in the thought of having to wait 3 more weeks for the family's sake, just somewhat troublesome. I'd like to try to get it done for them. So thank you for your time. I'm sorry that I'm picking up in the middle of this, and if there was any other outstanding Goddard issues, I don't know what they are, and I'll try to address them. Thank you.
Joe, so you've been out there recently, and the delineation looks good.
Yeah, it looked pretty good. I thought it was some flags were somewhat low, I thought, by 4 to 5 feet. So I noted that in the memo, but pretty accurate. A couple other things I noted: the tree line indicated on the site plan does not represent the edge of the lawn. The edge of the lawn is quite a bit closer to the delineated wetland than the canopy line, tree line, edge of woods line shown on the plan. I also just noted, so the commission is aware, there were several tree stumps, approximately 4 to 8 inches within about 25 feet of the wetland boundary. I don't know when those trees were cut or why, but it looks like they were done a while ago. They didn't look recent. Leaves and yard waste piles within 25 feet of the wetland boundary. The stream stats analysis, and Peter mentioned that he ran that. I don't know if that was submitted or not for the record, but that seems to make sense. I did have a question on the 200-foot offset from the DCR stream that's labeled on the site plan, and how that was obtained. The stream located on that side of the tracks actually continues along the side of the railroad tracks for the entire length of this property on the far side of the tracks. So it seemed like they took a point maybe off the USGS map for the stream, but the actual stream in the field extends beyond that point along the tracks. And as an administrative item, just that the affidavit of service had not been signed. That was the one that was submitted with the application. And that covers it.
I don't know about the affidavit, that's for sure. I would say that when we do our database for a project like this, we would look at LiDAR, and I would have brought LiDAR data in, and I would have the exact location of the stream channel. So going forward, I will include that when we do our proposed plan, so you'll have a greater detail on that and the proper setback. It won't really affect the boundary of the wetland line.
Correct.
So I guess I would ask that if you will accept my commentary, that when you see this plan again in the future, you'll have more detail. I will assure you of that.
Okay, I mean, the crucial thing here is that the location of the resource areas be depicted accurately on the plan. That's the key thing we're looking for here. And Joe, you said there was maybe some minor difference of opinion. Do you feel generally comfortable that the plan is an accurate reflection of the resource areas on the site that the applicant can then base a design off of?
Yeah, I think with I haven't had a chance to compare the plans side by side, but if the flags have been moved, as I had indicated in my memo, then I think we're fine as far as the BVW delineation.
Okay.
And we can specifically state that we are only approving the wetland lines for the wetland flags that are called out. And we can make a finding that we make no, jurisdiction of the accuracy of the 200-foot offset of the DCR stream on the property. We are only confirming the wetland flags. Peter did send the stream stats, so I do have that, and did send the revised plans with the wetland flag locations changed. The only things that I will note that I want to point out is that the locations have changed, and they connected number 7 to number 9, but left number 8 on the plan. So I'm just, in your issuance, I'm going to recommend that in the findings that we state, we are approving the line from the connection of wetland flag 7 to 9. It is connected on the plan, but there's just still the little triangle that shows number 8.
Okay, great. And then some of the other issues, like the one that stands out in my mind, was that some yard waste. There was also some past cutting of trees. We can't really address that in an ANRAD anyhow, but it sounds like the notice of intent will be following shortly, so that will be fresh in our minds to address at the time of the public hearing for a future notice. With all that being said, are there any questions or comments from the commission? Okay. If there's anybody from the public here this evening who wishes to ask a question or offer a comment, please use the raise hand function on Zoom and we will promote you up. It does not look like. The audience is getting pretty thin. All right. So with that being said, I think we're in a position to close the public hearing, and as is our typical practice, at the end of our meeting tonight, we'll put together the conditions that Melissa talked about on an ORAD. So step 1, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Farrington,
Yes.
Kulik,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Enjoy your holiday.
Thank you. You too. Happy Thanksgiving. Okay. Where are we here? All right, that was our last public hearing. So next up on the agenda, a potential violation at 31 Presidential.
Yes, so I received a phone call about some tree clearing that happened now 2 weeks ago. I wasn't notified until after, unfortunately, it seemed like it had happened. So I drove past the property and I couldn't notice anything specific from the roadway that looked different. And looking at aerial imagery, there is an extensive amount of wetlands that are surrounding the property on 2 sides at least. It kind of, the house is here, then it kind of wraps around and in the back. So someone had called that they were removing large trees, for many days at night and on the weekends, etc. The person said that they didn't know the company that was removing it, but I do know that the house was recently purchased, and the company identified themselves to the complainant as kind of a friend of the person who owned it. So I did send the homeowner a letter. I've not heard anything back. I did send it just regular snail mail as kind of a first nice test. So my next step after this meeting is to send one by certified mail. It's just kind of at this point unsure of the extent of any tree removal that happened, but that is the path that we'll take unless anyone else has any information that they've heard or any requests for next steps.
I think you can see that property from Fisher Road too, maybe.
Oh, that's a thought.
Yeah, I haven't been back there. I go down Presidential a few times a week, and I haven't noticed anything in my travels out there. There's one more instance where we need to have a commission drone.
There we go.
So again, I know the property. I've worked there in the past.
Okay.
Not
Right.
that does any good.
You're right. You can probably see it from Fisher. All right. Well, yeah, I'll try. Maybe this time of year it'll be nice with no leaves.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to keep you updated on that.
So you said you have sent the certified mailing already?
I've only sent regular snail mail
Oh, okay.
as a first reach out. I couldn't find any other contact information because they were so new to the property. There was no building permits for their name, etc.
Right.
So I'm going to send a certified letter at this point now.
Okay. Sounds like a good next step. Let's see, 15 Woodland Road, we've taken care of. 353, 355 Turnpike Road, we have decided to hold off on that until they've done some work in the drainage system. Our meeting schedule, you've just put together a list of dates. Does that, anyone have any conflicts or concerns or anything that they'd like to bring up with regards to that?
They're about 1 day different from this year's. And as
Okay.
usual, just as a rolling basis, as you guys find things that meetings you can't attend, just let me know.
Is there I have a couple of questions about our meeting schedule, actually. Is they're going to continue on Zoom?
That's kind of up to you guys. We are allowed to meet in person. We have the OWL system set up to do hybrid meetings. So even if we were in person, there should be the availability to also be on Zoom. But as of right now, I don't have any inclination to not be on Zoom unless you guys want to be.
But there's no impending next deadline. I know in end of August, we were waiting on something.
Is it May again? So it's coming up in the next 6 months. But they have still been trying to work on the language for the new legislation that would allow remote meetings permanently moving forward. So I'll keep you abreast of anything that changes with that. And if we need to have to be in person, sooner rather than later, then I'll let you guys know.
And who are the other members of the committee?
So everyone, and only Mark isn't here tonight.
So Mark hasn't been here. I think he's only been at one meeting that I've been at since I joined, but
You guys have been flip flopped. So he was supposed to be tonight.
So basically the ones I don't go to, he goes
Yes.
to.
Yeah.
Okay.
He had issues with his internet tonight, so unfortunately he wasn't able to join on when he got home. So he didn't make it tonight. But you guys have been like the complete opposites because he had the same comment.
Yeah, I'm like, he's so mysterious to me. And he's technically the chair, right? Not
Yes.
not Ben.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so confusing to me because I think I've never been at a meeting that he's led. I'm pretty sure, and I've only missed 2, I think. But anyways, that's okay.
Yeah.
My other question is about like etiquette of turning off our video, or like I was obviously eating dinner tonight. Are we allowed to turn off our video, or is if we're eating, I know not for the extended period of meeting time, but or do you want us to keep our video on at all times? I know these
What
are
is
like
the
weird questions, but I just want to like check in on what the etiquette is.
I think that's also up to the commission. I don't think there's anything official about, I think committees just, some have the preferences of, leave your video
I saw
on.
Rust eating, so I was like, if Rust is eating, I'm gonna eat.
I mean, it happens. So I think that's up to your guys' discretion. I think people like to see the video is on for the most part, especially if you're speaking, just to know that you're part of the quorum. That's usually the only concern.
Yeah, and it happens pretty routinely that somebody has connectivity issues, whatever, and has to call in and there's no video at all. That's certainly happened with community preservation. We've had that happen a few times. So yeah, the commission certainly doesn't have any policy on that. And
I call your name when we hear the garbled food in your mouth.
I know today was noodles. I was like, this is not a good look. But I'm like anxious to turn off my video.
So honestly, I do miss the in-person meetings, but the convenience is hard to beat.
I selfishly like it, but I do miss in person sometimes. It is true.
Yeah. Let's see. All right, so SMP bylaw and our proposed reg updates is next up.
Yes. So I think I've gotten everything at least that we've talked of to date. So on the Dropbox, I put both the red line version and the clean version. The real only difference between this version from last meeting is I obviously made the changes that we discussed, which was only in discussion mostly for the segmented projects and what disturbance of land or common development of land. So I made those changes and updated the definition sheet as well. And then the only real other changes I made is that survey I had sent out to you guys months ago now about some of the recommendations involving like low impact development or the nature-based solutions, in which the commission state that you didn't want to make a hard ruling in requiring, but recommending. So I just put very brief statements in about, the applicant shall, what was it? My computer doesn't like that I have so much open either. I think it was, are encouraged but not required to consider and implement lid design BMPs to meet stormwater requirements, and then just stormwater management systems that are properly designed using lid techniques and appropriate BMPs can better simulate the natural existing hydrologic connection and reduce adverse impacts. So the same thing, I think, but for the native vegetation, just encouraged but not required. So just so it's in there, it's something for engineers and applicants to think about when they're doing site design, but not a hard requirement as of yet.
So just to vent a little bit here, this has been a problem for going on 20 years now with low impact development, which is a fantastic thing with incredible potential. And this is a problem I lay just completely at DEP's feet. The various LID technologies, right? We still have to meet all the stormwater standards as engineers with regards to peak flow, infiltration, and so forth. And with most of these LID techniques, DEP in the Stormwater Management Manual doesn't provide any numbers behind it. You put in a rain garden, how does that affect peak flow? And how do you quantify the infiltration that happens through it? How do you even quantify like the TSS removal and the nitrogen removal? There are no numbers like that. So what happens is you have to design a conventional drainage system with detention ponds and storm scepters and all the usual stuff. And then you're cramming more LID stuff around that is duplicating the function, but we're provided with absolutely no basis to capture that mathematically, to put in the drainage report to show that it works. And that's why we don't see a ton more low impact development, because they just won't give us the numbers. It's really frustrating. We can't solve that problem. That's one reason why we don't see more LID. We would see a ton more if, engineers were empowered to show how this stuff works in a drainage report. But without the DEP giving some numbers or approving the numbers of some study, here we are, sort of flailing around. Anyhow, I see Russ smiling. I'm just doing a rant like he does occasionally. It's just a source of frustration.
I love
But
it.
it's good that we have it in our stormwater regs to encourage it, and hopefully someday we'll get to a point where we can use it in a more methodical way. Anyhow.
So I am at least thinking to ensure that we can get this on for spring. I was going to submit at least a placeholder warrant item for the Springtown meeting for the stormwater bylaw. So if you guys are comfortable with that, we still have time to change. And this is the regulations that we've been mostly working on. So I just need to finalize what that would be within the bylaw. I have most of it. I think the number one change is considering if we want to take the definitions out of the bylaw, because they have the first 15 in alphabetical order. So they have a bunch of A's and B's, and that's about it. That was the only real thing that was different about the bylaw, that I didn't quite understand why those would be in there, but not the rest of them. And they're also reiterated within the regulations. They didn't seem to be ones of particular importance over other items as well. So I'll play around with that, but otherwise it will mimic and even be slightly less than what we have in the regulations. Ironically, amending a bylaw is kind of easier in this circumstance.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So we're getting there. All right, and the plan still is we're going to, have you ever heard back from town council on the, on trying to pull this out of zoning and put it into an actual bylaw?
I got, you can do it, not quite the mechanism,
Okay.
perhaps, because it's either leave it where it is in the zoning code, but change the appeal just to
right.
Superior Court, and that's more than fine, just changing that language. Or taking it out of general, but I still haven't gotten the clarification of how that is. I think they're not quite understanding my question, so I'm gonna try again. But if that's
I'd love to have a recommendation from town council, and maybe we ought to, if it comes to it, maybe we ought to just ask him to come in and chat with us about this just for 10 minutes at one of our meetings, just so we can get some guidance on it. I mean, in an ideal world, we'd pull it out of zoning altogether, but if there's some legal reason why it makes a lot of sense to leave it there, but we can change how the appeal is conducted, then just let us know what that is. And okay.
Yeah, he seemed to have pros and cons in that he was thinking of. So I'll ask him about next step if he's be willing to come to a meeting. Worst case scenario, at least getting an actual legal opinion about how to make this change and the reasonings for and against.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. All right, 2023 goals and objectives from the open space and recreation plan.
Yeah, this was really just, I mentioned to you guys at the last meeting, I put it up on the Dropbox. This is kind of goals for the commission, and then kind of from the commission for me to work on as well for next year. So I pulled out all of the yearly goals from kind of the various master plans, open space and rec plans that we are a responsible party for, and or a partner that we should kind of get kicking. So I pulled out a couple that we are either already working on or ones that we are about to work on for the next year, or at least ones that we can at least start because it's a multi-year process. So I really just wanted to get your feel, if you had anything that you felt strongly about, either for or against, or even if you had a goal that you saw that you wanted to be more interested in or involved in, we can work it out that way. This isn't something that you guys have to approve, but kind of I guess, a working document, if nothing else, that, these are at least the initiatives that we're going to try to work on throughout 2023. So that we're not negligent in our responsibilities throughout the various plans in town.
Whoops.
And I did kind of color code horribly what kind of we've already completed, what we kind of already have in process, and some that we just haven't started yet, to kind of make it a little bit easier. Because I think we are doing a lot of things that relate to these goals and objectives without kind of intentionally meaning to, but there are things we can expand upon very easily to get a lot of them done.
So I apologize. I missed that when I was going through the Dropbox, and I didn't go through the document. My apologies.
No sweat. It's still 2022. We've got time. And like I said, it's nothing you guys have to review or approve. It's just as we go. If you see something different that maybe should be added, or you don't think something's a higher priority as something else, then that's just something that we can talk about, discuss on either at a meeting or even individually between myself and you. So anyone is willing to reach out to me at any time, and we'll make some of these things happen.
Okay, thank you. All right, and you're up next. Conservation scientist and agent report. What's going on?
So there is another violation at 125 Parkerville. This is a property that actually Ferris Development purchased recently, and they are, it sounds like rehabbing the house, maybe reselling. So I reached out to them yesterday after Mark actually gave me a call to say he saw some grading going on, and that the property both could have triggered the stormwater management permit because the amount of grading, but also the proximity to the wetlands that we just had confirmed at 250 Turnpike that's adjacent to this property. So I am going to share a plan. They moved really quickly, and I'm very thankful on that. I reached out to them yesterday, and by this meeting, I was submitted this plan of the total limit of work of what they had done, and I can read that once I can find my other screen in a second. So they stated that they are under the 50% threshold for a stormwater management permit. So they wouldn't necessarily need to file. This is an existing house, existing septic, etc. I think it had been abandoned for a little while and just kind of got a little overgrown. But the one issue kind of that stood out very quickly is that this green line here is the limit of the wetland boundary. So they are very close to this edge, probably within 5 feet at the least. So they stated that the alteration is just barely under half the area of the lot. The area of the lot is exactly 1 acre. Surface altered was over 21,200 square feet, or 48.6 of it. We apologize that it even came this close. They were supervising the improvement of the yard, which had been completely neglected for the last several years. This included cutting dead trees, removing patchy moss over some areas of the yard, and removing brush that had established roots down in the septic system leaching area. So it's my opinion that at this point they would need to file an after the fact application, most likely a notice of intent due to the proximity, not necessarily because of the extent of work, but I don't know how extensive it was on this side either. I really just did a drive-by from the street and noticed the amount of disturbance. They said they also seeded with a fast-growing mix. I'm not sure the specifics of that, but I'm assuming that went on today because when I drove by yesterday, it was still bare dirt. So that's probably a hydro seed. So I wanted to get your thoughts initially. They are being very responsive, but before I responded, I wanted to get your kind of confirmation or other thoughts about next steps in terms of a notice of intent or other wetland application.
So we don't know for sure the extent of the disturbance within the 20-foot no-touch. Just that there was some activity there, but we don't know.
Well, everything in this red is what they disturbed.
Okay.
So we know that it was, here's the edge of the wetland. So, I mean, we know at least a substantial part, along this back edge was within the 20-foot. But yeah, there's just the 100, which is here. So the majority of the work was in the 100.
Okay, I'm a little kind of torn here. If there was a lot of ground disturbance within the 20-foot no disturb, that is kind of a big deal. On the other hand, if this was the original location of the yard that was allowed to sort of grow up for a year or two, and they're just trying to restore the lawn, changes my opinion a little bit, and I might be convinced more towards addressing it with an RDA, but I think one way or the other, they absolutely have to come in. And if they were out there, with a bulldozer or something, scraping up the root systems, for brush or whatever within the 20-foot no touch, I think we need an NOI for a restoration plan.
I will get some further clarification on the amount and size of trees that were removed and brush in more approximate locations, but we'll let them know that definitely some sort of filing, and what comes out of kind of that initial report from them and maybe a more detailed survey with those locations mapped on them can give us a better understanding of NOI versus RDA.
Does that sound like a plan to everybody? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, great. Okay.
Ross, I'm going to stop sharing. You good? Okay.
Let's see, any other active sites, interesting stuff going on?
No. Oh, but I'm sorry for the alarm. We do not need to have a special meeting for that one application.
Okay.
They finally did sign the waiver after stating they wouldn't. So thankfully that helped. It was just a little bit of a scurry just because of the holidays, just the timing of the newspaper. We just needed to try and move as fast as we could, but they finally understood it was just kind of a one-day short, so that they signed the waiver, and I'm very thankful for that.
Oh, great. Yeah, I was curious if it was, I'm surprised it doesn't happen with us occasionally, just with the spacing of our meetings. We're so close to the deadline that folks try to sort of game the system for a presumptive approval, but it hasn't happened, which is good.
Don't jinx it.
Let's see. Actually, under other business, just something, Elizabeth, that you brought up first. Do you go by Elizabeth or Liz?
Liz.
Liz, okay, thank you. I thought so, but I wasn't sure. You were asking who the members of the commission were, and the fact is we have 2 empty seats still, and we have for a while. So all I was going to say is if anybody knows anybody who may have the slightest bit of interest in joining us every 3 weeks, please encourage them to get down to town hall and fill out an interest form. It would be great to, because we're sort of just, sort of surfing along very close to a quorum as it is, and it'd be great to get a full panel again. Because if we can do it, it's always kind of a challenge. Just thought I'd throw that out there. I'm looking around too.
Is it worth posting in like the Southborough Share and Care Facebook site or something like that? I don't know if you guys are users of that site, but it's a common site in town.
Yeah.
Not a user, but if anyone wants to share, I'd be happy to give them a little blurb to share.
I do that, or to the moms groups in town. I'm part of a couple of them.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll send you a little blurb early next week then.
And we have reached out through My Southborough before, just to try to publicize that we have some openings, and anyone with really the only requirement is an interest in wetlands preservation and management of public open space.
Yeah, and if you let me on, you let anyone on. So it seems like it's fine.
You're the least of my worries.
All right. Does anybody else have any other business they'd like to bring up?
Yeah.
If not, it's time for everyone's favorite motion.
No, it's not. We got a lot of permits to approve.
Oh my God. I completely forgot. I was excited.
Don't you dare let these drag on.
I was excited to get out before 9 o'clock. I'm so sorry.
I'll still get you there. I promise.
All right, yeah, we have a bunch of orders.
I'll go down the line. So for the ANRAD, the findings is that we are not confirming any part of the accuracy of the 200-foot offset of the DCR stream, and that we are approving the wetland line as revised, except for wetland flag number 8 and wetland flag number 7 is connecting to wetland flag number 9. So that, end of story.
All right. Any discussion? All right, is there a motion to issue the order as discussed?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Harrington,
Yes.
Zulik,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Okay. 1 Witherby Lane, we only had just our standard special conditions, nothing else. Sorry, couldn't think of the word.
A motion to issue our standard order for 1 Witherby.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Farrington,
Yes.
Zulik,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
All right. For 355, 353 Turnpike, I have our standard conditions, and stockpiles shall be located no closer than 10 feet from the rear property line. Materials and equipment shall be located and stored no closer than 10 feet from the rear property line. The stormwater outlet shall be located and repaired to the satisfaction of the conservation agent and may contain, but not limited to, uncovering outlet, cleaning pipe of sediment, debris, and armoring slope if needed. All catch basins shall be cleaned and hoods installed if not present or in disrepair. And erosion controls shall contain also temporary measures for daily construction activities that are closed at the end of each workday.
Sounds good. Any discussion? All right, then I will make the motion to issue the order as discussed. Is there a second?
Second.
Barrington,
Yes.
Zulik,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Osmato. Oh my God, never mind. He's not even here. I had written him before. I'm so sorry. All right. And then the last one is 10 Metcalf, which I just have findings of fact about. Angelica Brook is mapped as perennial stream. The applicant has submitted the appropriate alternatives analysis. The total river fund is under the 10%. And then the main one that I have that I do have one question on, I stated this number of square feet to be of current maintained lawn to be reforested with no cease of mowing and supplemental plantings. Plantings within the reforestation area shall include 2 white oak and 2 white maple. The reforestation area shall not be mowed in perpetuity and allowed to revegetate to meet compliance with the extent practicable for 310 MRC, blah, blah, blah. It's about the riverfront and the 10% and the 100-foot vegetation.
What was the maple?
White maple.
No.
No?
Red.
Red. Okay.
White oak.
We talked about switching those, right?
Oh, that, yeah, white, yeah, white oak. Red
I have it on my last one. Okay, but not this one. So red, not white. Okay. I'm
not even sure there is a white maple.
Yeah.
You know, I could have typed that incorrectly. I wouldn't be surprised. This area shall remain in perpetuity beyond the expiration of the order conditions and issuance of the certificate of compliance. The only question I had that we didn't discuss, if you want a certain time period prior to when the certificate of compliance has been requested and issued, so that you know that the threshold in which you are calling the reforested area reforested. Does that make sense? Because you're allowing it to revegetate. So how long do you want to let it go? Or is there, there's not quite a percentage, but you know, usually we do the 2 years of monitoring, but when things are just kind of letting creep in, you know, usually that takes a little bit longer if it's just doing it itself.
Yeah. I mean, we could do 2 growing seasons just to demonstrate that the plantings have survived.
Okay. All right. So 2 growing seasons. Do you want a monitoring report each year or just at the end of 2?
I think it's a small enough area. I don't know, others may feel differently, but a small enough area that when they come in for the COC in 2 years, we can walk through it then. And if they haven't kept up with them and allowed them to die, then that'll postpone the certificate of compliance. That sound
Everyone else
okay?
think-
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. All right, so that's all I have for those then, with that added about the 2 growing seasons.
Okay. Is there a motion to issue the order as discussed?
So moved.
Thank you, and a second.
All right, Farrington,
Yes.
Gulick,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
no Pasamato. Got it. All right,
Okay.
now I'm really done.
All right. 4 minutes to spare. All right. I thought this one was going to go late. This is fantastic. So would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Farrington,
Yes.
Gulick,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, and have a great night. And,
Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah. Happy
Same to you.
Thanksgiving.
Likewise.
Thanksgiving.
Wild.
all
So
right.
Betty, you getting ready to go back to real work yet?